It's Monday, November 17th, 2025, and a major weather pattern change is brewing right now. Arctic air is about to crash into the western United States, and by Thanksgiving week, a potential holiday storm could snarl travel across the plains and the eastern U.S. And we've got serious flooding threats building from Texas to Arkansas, so let's get right into it. All right, so let's start off by looking at these winds about 18,000 feet above the air. This is what we typically refer to as the jet stream. You can see that we've got a pretty enhanced jet coming out of Canada over here along the eastern United States. This is what's causing all of that lake effect and lake enhanced snow over there in Pennsylvania up into the interior northeast. It's keeping it cold up there as well, and that's going to skedaddle, okay? But what we're going to move our attention towards are these smaller systems that you see here that are going to kind of dance across the United States over the next couple of days. Now, these are definitely going to be impactful. They're going to be interesting. They're going to be something that we're talking about here. But what I'm really going to do is kind of get past these so we can talk about what happens next. Thematically, the biggest thing that pops out to me with our weather pattern over the next, 2 weeks or so is what's coming around Thanksgiving. But we are going to have a little dip in the jet stream here that is going to cause some problems with some snow and some rain from the plains through the upper Midwest into the Ohio Valley, Mid-Atlantic regions. And that's going to be followed by a pretty noticeable ridge. And during this time period, so this is, around Wednesday into Thursday, we are going to have some potentially record-breaking heat in the southeast, the south central United States, as this right here is going to allow for some pretty intense warmth to move up from the Gulf. But notice what's happening behind that. We've got another big trough, and this will be our next potential big-time storm that we've got to deal with. Right now, it looks like there could be somewhat of a severe weather threat from Texas up into Arkansas, but the main thing is just going to be a dumping of Gulf moisture over here, which will lead to some flooding, and we'll talk more about that right here in a second. But just notice how we have a prolonged jet streak here that's going to lead to recurring thunderstorms in the south central United States over into the Tennessee Valley as we go through the latter part of this week into the weekend. And here's what all that looks like on a more familiar looking map around 1 p.m. on Tuesday. That's tomorrow. We could be dealing with a stripe of snow from Michigan down into Pennsylvania, more lake effect, more lake enhanced snow, but also some just general snow showers associated with this low pressure system that'll be over St. Louis around this time. This will also send a stripe of rain from Ohio back down towards Memphis and Arkansas. Some isolated thunder showers will be possible. Some heavier rain will be possible in the Delmarva area as we go into the day on Tuesday, late Tuesday into early Wednesday. But once again, I don't think that storm's going to be super impactful. It's the next one that's got my attention. You can see that low pressure system forming in Texas. You can see all of the moisture kind of showing itself as heavy rain here. And once again, there will be isolated incidents where we have some strong storms embedded in here as well. It's too far away to kind of talk about the specifics there, but the main thing that we know for sure is there's going to be a ton of rain falling in this area, and that might lead to some flooding. So that's going to be what we're talking about as we go from Thursday into Friday. And then even as we go into Saturday and Sunday, that lingering low pressure system will be bringing some interesting weather to the Appalachian Mountains, the Mid-Atlantic. Washington, D.C. could be having some heavy rain during this time. But once again, all of this stuff is impactful to some degree, but it's not the main ingredient for the next 2 weeks of weather across the United States. And we're going to talk about that main ingredient here in just a moment. But first, let's shout out today's sponsor, Zachdoc, Find and Book Doctors. Look, I've got the best job in the world, but between my team, my family, and the millions of y'all counting on me for weather coverage, my health is what I end up putting on the back burner. I'd notice something off and tell myself I'd deal with it later because the whole process of booking a doctor's appointment, calling around, waiting on hold, just felt like one more thing I didn't have time for. Which is why I'm so glad I found today's sponsor. Zachdoc is a free website where you can easily search and compare high-quality in-network doctors so you can find the right doctor for you without the guesswork or the phone calls. With tons of verified patient reviews and detailed doctor profiles, you can get a real sense of the provider and their practice before you ever step into the office. All you have to do is pick a time that works for you. Appointments generally happen pretty fast too, usually within 72 hours of booking the appointment, sometimes even the same day. Zachdoc isn't just for one type of care either. They have more than 100,000 providers across nearly every specialty. So don't keep putting it off like I used to. Be kind to yourself and go to Zachdoc.com/Ryan Hall, y'all, to find and instantly book an in-network doctor near you today. That's ZocDoc.com/Ryan Hall, y'all. There's a link at the top of the description. Make sure you click that so you can go check them out. Big thanks to Zachdoc for sponsoring today's video. It's a really awesome sponsor. We're glad to have them on board. I'm sure you guys are going to love them. Now let's get back into the forecast. Okay, now let's get back into what we're talking about here. So all of this rain over the next 4 or 5 days is going to lead to somewhat of a flooding threat from Austin, Texas, up through Dallas, even up there towards Oklahoma City, southwestern portions of Missouri. This is the day 4 excessive rainfall outlook, and we've got ourselves a pretty significant chance of flooding over here. And this is just one day of the next 5, and you can see that over the next 7 days, there's going to be a large area that sees a lot of rain. Anywhere from 2 to 5 inches of rain is going to be possible from central Kentucky, middle Tennessee, all the way back into the hill country in Texas. And there's a lot of these places that will experience this rain in a short period of time, and that will lead to some flooding. Otherwise, it's mostly welcomed rainfall from Dallas up to Nashville there. But if you do live in a flood-prone area, make sure you're ready for this. We're going to keep you updated. If things change here and we start to see a more significant flooding threat, we'll of course have updates for you. It does look like that could happen, so stay tuned. All right, let's go back to the upper level winds, the jet stream here, and let's talk about what's next. Okay, so we've got these 2 systems getting ready to come by, and those are fine and dandy. Okay, we know what those are going to entail for the most part, but what's next is something really, really interesting. So we're going to enter this very high amplitude pattern where we're going to have some major troughing and ridging happening, and we're going to have some significant storms try to form over here in the western United States and then carry across the Rockies into the central and eastern United States. Here's one around the 25th of November where it does look like there's a pretty robust severe weather chance on the warm side. And once again, this is a little bit too far out to talk about specifics. I don't want to be like, well, this looks like a hail or a tornado threat. That'll change a million times before we get there. The one thing that we do know is that it looks like there's going to be a low pressure center, an enhanced jet streak, and the potential for storms and unsettled weather from the 24th to the 26th from the central plains over into the Ohio Valley. And then what happens after that? As we approach Thanksgiving, things are going to get plumb wild, it looks like. Another big time trough and ridge pattern starts to develop. We could have on the 28th a significant storm on the East Coast, but even that is not the main thing. There is a huge signal for a trough the size of the United States of America as we approach late November into early December. So this is a pretty significant holiday time. This is quite the time for the weather to decide to get active again, and it does look like there's going to be a 1-2 punch. First storm might be a glancing blow to the East Coast, but this second one here would be impactful to everybody from the West Coast with the strong winds and heavy precipitation from the Sierras up into the Rockies into the central plains where we would also have strong winds, potentially severe weather. And then even on the backside, like this is something that could cause a significant snow with the right conditions. So this is my next big thing that I'm watching. I'm going to be looking at every model run as it comes out. And if we continue to see this, big theme here on the channel is going to be trying to nail down your Thanksgiving forecast, because this is the kind of storm that could certainly be impactful to millions and millions of people during the busiest travel week of the year. So right here, all we're looking at are those winds at the 500 millibar level, about 18,000 feet. That big trough could lead to some pretty significantly unsettled weather. Now, it will also lead to some pretty interesting stuff with our temperatures. So leading up to this big pattern change, we're going to be having fun in the sun for the most part, outside of the rain, of course, in the south central United States. Across the vast majority of America, we're going to be above average with our temperatures. And once again, there will be a few places that break some records, especially in the southeast as we go forward. There's going to be intermittent hits of average to below average temperatures. There's one around the 22nd, but for the most part, we're all above average here. But notice what happens as we approach Thanksgiving, as we approach late November, things become a little bit more unsettled. We get a pretty prominent cold blast here with that first storm that's going to try to glance the East Coast. That's going to send in some pretty cold weather into the Ohio Valley. Another little ridge comes in right behind that, loading us up for the next storm, where we have a very significant chance of an Arctic outbreak in the western United States. And what do we always say? Whenever we've got such a divide, there's always a storm in the middle. Okay, so when we have negative 40 degrees below average temperatures right next to 20 to 30 degree above average temperatures, the only thing that can happen there is a major storm system. That's what we're looking at around late November into early December. And look at that. Holy smokes. Big time above average readings here right next to below average. This would be a big storm. Once again, it's too early to talk about details. I don't know if Minneapolis would see a foot of snow from that. I don't know if we'd have a tornado outbreak on the warm side, but those are the kinds of things that are possible with a storm system that is that large. And because that possibility exists. You're going to see it all over YouTube, all over TikTok. People are going to be like, a major storm is coming on Thanksgiving. And while that may be true, don't fall for it too much until we get a little bit closer. If anybody's trying to tell you how much snow you're going to get or exactly what kind of impacts you're going to get out of this storm, they're full of it. You know, I'm sorry. There's no magical weather wizard out there. We're all working with the same data. And all we know right now is that things are going to get active as we approach Thanksgiving. Right now, the GFS is printing out a pretty decent snowstorm for the upper Midwest, the northern plains, and a pretty decent severe weather situation as well for the south central United States over into the mid-Mississippi River Valley, and then mostly just a sweeping cold front after that. So that'll change a lot as we go forward. So once again, stay tuned here if you want the details. I will have plenty for you as we get more information in. The main takeaway is this is the pattern that we're heading towards: above average in the east, below average in the west, and everywhere in between is going to be fair game for spinning low pressure systems to form up and cause unsettled weather. So get ready for that. Otherwise, enjoy the warmth in the southeast. It's going to feel great a lot of days when it's not raining in Nashville down to Miami up towards Washington, D.C., and it's going to be a little bit below average in the west. And here's another look at our more near-term threat with those storms that might be coming through the Ohio Valley from today into tomorrow into Wednesday. The stuff up north will be mostly snow, but the latest HRRR actually does show some pretty robust thunderstorms working through the Ohio Valley area into Kentucky, over even from St. Louis over to Charleston, West Virginia. Should be getting ready for some heavy rain and some isolated thunderstorms over the next 36 hours, 72 hours or so. So get ready for that. And otherwise, let's buckle up for a busy Thanksgiving week. It's time to start focusing on that. If that storm goes away on the models, honestly, there's not a whole lot else to talk about. So that's the next thing that we're going to be nailing down. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, slap the like button and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.